Marvel Snap's latest OT update has arrived, and you're not gonna believe this. There's no nerfs and a whole bunch of huge buffs. I don't know about you, but buffs get me hyped up, so let's dive in. The first buff we gotta talk about is the least played Avenger in Marvel Snap, and that's Hawkeye, who goes from getting a +2 when being played on top of him to a +3. The potential synergy for bounce is obvious, with Hawkeye being capable of getting multiple procs for his buff without the course of a game. However, it's notable that buffs like this can step on the toes of other cards, like Ant-Man for instance, who takes much more effort to get their +3. Ant-Man's an ongoing card though, which has its own benefits, but perhaps the potential synergies with bounce is going to help elevate Hawkeye to even more playable status than something like an Ant-Man, which admittedly doesn't see all that much play anyways. But still, Hawkeye seems to have some legitimate potential in an archetype that maybe is kind of dropping off a little bit. We're not seeing as much bounce as we used to, and maybe that changes with the addition of Hawkeye. The thing about Hawkeye is it's going to be absolutely horrible on turn 6, well literally useless on turn 6, so you do want to get it early on in the game. It has like a Kitty Pryde style effect where the earlier you get Hawkeye the better, specifically with bounce, but ultimately it could just be a card that helps fill out a couple decks here and there. But even as a 1/4, its effect still is a little restrictive, so ultimately it's a cool buff. We'll have to see where Hawkeye goes, and I mean, if you can't make it now, then I don't think we can buff him any more than this, so ultimately maybe the effect is just a little too weak. Alright, so the next card getting buffed is one of the least played cards in the game, and it's entirely possible that you even forgot that this card exists. I'm talking about Hulkbuster. Hulkbuster is straight up getting a 1 power buff, going from a 3/4 to a 3/5. While on paper that doesn't seem significant, it's worth noting that it's a stat line that's parallel to Polaris, which is actually considered to be a very reasonable power play on turn 5. It's also notable that Hulkbuster conserves space on your board, which for many decks might actually be a huge advantage. Most importantly, however, it's that Hulkbuster's combo potential often sees this 1 power buff being a little more significant in practice than it is on paper. For example, if you Hulkbuster a multiple man, each time multiple man moves, you get +1 on the replication, so there's a scaling there that makes this buff more powerful than may first meet the eye. Another great synergy is that with Deadpool, who literally doubles the power of the card when destroyed, so once again that +1 power scales much faster than some may realize. Ultimately though, I still think that Hulkbuster is a very combo-centric card, and some experimentation will show if this is enough power to really make its effect worth it, but in Marvel Snap each card really has to pull its weight in a 12 card deck, and I'm still worried that Hulkbuster may find itself getting cut from time to time. However, if we can find a really broken combo, Hulkbuster just might be the kind of card to take it over the edge. This next buff is an absolute W for one of my favorite cards in the game. Vision is getting +1 power, going from a 5/7 to a 5/8, which I feel is actually pretty damn wild. I've been one of the only people still holding on to Vision as a legitimate inclusion in many of my decks, namely Electro Ramp, where I think is really good. Lockjaw, I mean, we've got Lockjaw decks that are now skipping on Vision, where he used to be a very strong inclusion, and of course there was the time where he was being played in Shuri. But this additional power serves as a chance for Vision to be differentiated from Phoenix Force, who may have a higher power ceiling overall, but will require way more effort to actually get the value from in comparison to Vision. Honestly, I think this buff might vastly increase Vision's play. In my opinion, it's always been a good card, it's just never been a great card. And this buff also brings the Shuried version of Vision from 14 power to 16, which might not sound like a lot, but honestly, we've all lost by 2 power, and that's 16 power that's nearly impossible for a Shang-Chi to predictably hit, that can access locations that you might not be able to play into. So there's a ton of flexibility here. I've been waiting to say these next few words for a really long time, so give me a moment to truly appreciate what I'm about to say. My friends, Captain Marvel is getting buffed. Captain Marvel has always been one of my absolute favorite cards in the game, and she's finally getting some love. She's going from a 5/6 to a 4/5 while still maintaining her original ability to fly around the game and get you that dub. This is actually a massive buff. To go down in energy cost but to only lose a single power is kind of insane, especially when you consider how strong Captain Marvel's ability is. This takes some heat off of the lockdown decks out there, although notably she cannot access a Professor X location, so Prof X still a problem. You'll need a baby shark for that actually. But the change is still significant, especially when you understand that Captain Marvel now becomes another card that could potentially work wonders alongside Zabu. Literally a shadow Zabu buff, like we needed that. At 3 costs, Captain Marvel would be an ideal surprise card on turn 6 possibly if you think about it. With Zabu on the board, you can give up initiative on turn 5, and then on turn 6 you can play Shang-Chi in a lane they're trying to flip, punch out their Hulk or whatever, and then drop Cap and let her do the rest. I mean, it just seems like free cubes at that point. Now obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit. Captain Marvel is not necessarily a surprise card, but what I will say is I still think the card is great. It's going to be legitimately playable, and you best damn well believe that you're going to be seeing some Captain Marvel on this channel over the next little while. I feel like this next one is a buff that Cozy and I have been talking about for a while on the Snapchat. We have identified this card as being problematic and weak despite having one of the greatest ceilings in the game. It comes in the form of Absorbing Man getting 2+ power, going from a 4/3 to a 4/5. This is actually pretty huge, as it brings its power in line with the likes of Rock Slide, while providing players with one of the best combo-centric abilities in the game. On paper, Absorbing Man has always seemed like a great card, but in nearly every single deck he starts in, he gets cut. As a 4-drop, the space is just simply too competitive. He only saw significant play during the Zabu heyday, where like Absorbing Man into the Spider-Man combo was locking down people's games and sending people into an angered fury. But once that got nerfed, he basically completely fell off the map. And apart from being included in like, I don't know, these 30% win rate hazmat meme decks, you really don't see Absorbing Man anymore. The increase to Absorbing Man's power makes him feel like less of a risk. At the end of the day, you win games of Marvel Snap by having more power than your opponent does on the board. And giving the card more power simply makes Absorbing Man a little more viable. But where he might have a chance to really shine is as a surprise card, where I ultimately think that Absorbing Man will outperform the likes of, say, a Wong. With Wong, you see Wong sitting there. Your opponent knows what might be coming. They can retreat, they can Cosmo, whatever, right? They can set up a plan to deal with that Wong. But Absorbing Man, the effect is immediate, which forces your opponent to be proactive, which can be way more difficult with on-reveal effects. There's just potential there, make no mistake, but time will tell if Absorbing Man is really going to be buffed enough to be back in the meta. I just think that this is a card that has an incredibly powerful effect that we just can't sleep on. And there's going to be a time where we're going to get a new on-reveal effect where perhaps Absorbing Man might just be the card that completely shatters the meta. And Alioth coming out soon might just be the card. Thanks for watching, guys. If you'd like to see some more Marvel Snap content, beside me here is a video that has the best current meta decks in the game at the moment. So if you're looking for some banger decks, I've got you covered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in that next Marvel Snap video.